Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video is going to be a new hits and misses follow-up video. So I post a lot of trying new makeup videos, first impressions, hauls, try-on hauls, and I always like to come back after a couple of weeks to give my full thoughts on everything. So I will link the video down below that we are following up to, but I'm going to be reviewing an eyeshadow palette from Pat McGrath, also the Anastasia Amrezy highlighter, and a foundation from Dior. So if you're ready to see my reviews, why don't we go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so first up I have the eyeshadow palette. This is from Pat McGrath. This is let me say the name correctly, the Pat McGrath Labs Mothership Sublime Bronze Temptation Eyeshadow Palette. Alrighty, here we go. Okay, so I did have a subscriber send this over to me, but this palette is $55. I was really excited to be able to try it out because I had never tried a Pat McGrath eyeshadow palette. So inside you have 6 different shades. You also have the mirror here. Now, I did a video recently, a palette countdown. I was ranking 10 new eyeshadow palettes to me and newer eyeshadow palettes, and I put them in a ranked format from 10 all the way down to number 1. I did review this palette in there, and it kind of fell in the middle of the pack, but one thing that I'll say right off the bat is that I do think the packaging is really cool. You know, it's a $55 eyeshadow palette, so it's nice to see something a little bit extra, but it also kind of drives me a little batty at the same time. And while we have a nice mirror in here, it's kind of complicated to actually use the mirror and then get into the eyeshadows because you have this flap here. It's not the easiest for me, and generally every time I use this eyeshadow palette, I'm just pulling in like my little handheld mirror instead, so it kind of defeats the purpose for me. I love mirrors in my palettes, but that was the packaging I actually ended up not being a huge fan of. But the shades inside, so you have these 6 different shades, and I think that the shades are fairly unique. One reason that I placed this more in the middle, even though it was higher priced and you know we only have the 6 shades in here, is that a handful of these shades are unique and kind of like shifting shades, which I think is pretty darn cool. So you do have these 2 mattes in here. You have 2 brown mattes, which I appreciate. You know, I like going into eyeshadow palettes and creating full looks. It's just kind of who I am. So I like having those 2 mattes in there, and I think that they're nice to have in the palette. Then we have these shimmers in here. So the green is actually, it's a little bit almost kind of like lackluster. It's not the worst like green eyeshadow that I've ever tried, but it didn't quite get me as excited as some of these others. And this shimmer right here is just like a really pretty, kind of more of like your champagne shimmer, but that looks really pretty all over the lid or for an inner corner highlight. But these 2 shades right here, if you can even tell as I'm kind of moving my hand back and forth, those 2 are really cool. In the trying new makeup video, I put this one all over the lid, and it was pretty freaking sweet. I got a lot of really nice comments on that shade, and I've also worn this shade all over the lid, and that one is kind of like your shifting shade as well, from kind of this purple to like a kind of like a grungy brown. I think that is like, it's so hard to show you, but I think that that's really awesome, and I don't have a lot of shades like that in my collection. So one thing that I appreciated about this palette and it being higher priced was I felt that some of the shades in here are more unique and a little bit more on the fun side to play with, and I don't have, you know, 5 other eyeshadow palettes in my collection that have all those same shades or the same color story in them. I felt like I was getting something a little bit different with this palette. So even though it didn't turn into like an absolute, you know, favorite staple palette of mine, I still can reach into it for some pretty fun looks. And I think that is pretty cool. Does everyone need a 6-pan palette that's $55? No, of course not. But if it's some of what I'm saying sounds interesting to you or like something that you would like, I do find this to be good quality. I find the mattes to be nice quality. They blend out easily. I don't have a lot of problems with them. The only shimmer in here that I found a little bit on that lackluster side was the green one. So, you know, if you're wanting to purchase this for the green, maybe think about that. But the other shades I think are really beautiful, and then these 2 on the bottom, those were the 2 that really impressed me. I think without kind of having those, I would have been like, why is this palette so expensive? I don't understand. But those 2 really made this palette pretty unique to me. So that is the Pat McGrath Bronze Temptation Eyeshadow Palette. So also in the video, I did try out the Fenty Beauty like face primer, and I got a couple comments like on Instagram and Twitter of people saying like, what do you think of that Fenty primer? Do you like it? You know, are you gonna buy the full size? Because I just had a very small sample of it when I ordered from Sephora. You know, I chose that as one of my samples, but the sample was so small, I only got that one use out of it. So it was kind of impossible for me to say what I think about it. So I just wanted to mention it since I did get a couple questions after that video went up of what I thought about the primer, but unfortunately it's such a bummer when samples really only give you one try, because it's like I just need a little bit more before I can really say if I want to go out and purchase the full size of it. I will say that it felt nice. It felt more kind of like a moisturizing primer. It felt nice. I felt like the foundation went over nice on it, but again, after only trying it once, it's kind of pretty impossible for me to say. But that was the Fenty primer. I just thought I would touch on it real quickly. And then the foundation that I was trying out in the video, this one is from Dior. This is their Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation. I got mine in the shade 2.5N. I ended up purchasing this. I had a sample. I tried the sample for a couple times and I liked it. I thought that it was pretty nice. So I went ahead and purchased a full size of it. And a lot of people have been raving about this foundation. A lot of people with like skin types similar to me, which is dry. I do also have sensitive skin. So I've been seeing a lot of people with similar skin types saying how much they love the foundation. So this is a $40 foundation and you get 1.6 fluid ounces. So a little bit more than the 1 ounce. The packaging isn't my absolute favorite. You kind of have like the squeeze tube here. So far I haven't run into any issues, but I know at some point I'll have to end up, you know, storing it upside down, just like the Cover FX Power Play foundation. But what I'll say about this one is that it's a really liquidy foundation, so I recommend applying it with a brush. I generally go for sponges when I'm applying foundation. I just feel like it makes my skin look a little bit more natural and whatnot, but there are some foundations where a brush just works better, and definitely this one I think it works better because the coverage is also a little bit on the lighter side. It's more of a medium coverage. You know, you can kind of really build it up to that medium, but I don't really see a full coverage out of this foundation, so kind of like the solid medium coverage, which is where I personally like to be. So that was another reason I wanted this foundation. Sometimes full coverage is just too much for me. I kind of prefer that medium. And I do really like the finish on it. It's a very natural finish, which again, is exactly my preference. Another reason why I purchased the full size of this foundation. It's a nice natural finish, and I thought it was interesting because when I was reading the claims on it, it said it was like a natural matte finish, but I actually don't get super matte with this one. It's a little bit more like on the glowy side. It's not like a dewy foundation or anything like that, but I also don't see matte really at all when I wear this. I just feel like it makes my skin look really healthy. Like again, it's not overly dewy or anything like that, but I don't know if you have oily skin, if you would love this one. Because it definitely doesn't mattify, at least on me. You know, I've tried it with different primers and brushes and all of that, and that's kind of what I keep finding no matter what it is that I'm using. But I really like this. Again, medium coverage, more of that natural finish with kind of like that healthy glow to it. I think that it's really nice. I will say I don't think that it's an absolute favorite though. I think that my skin still looks really good with it. I like it. I like reaching for it. I will say the 2.5N is just a little bit on the darker side. We are in February, but I have been self-tanning. I'm going on a vacation soon. So I thought this one would actually be a pretty good shade match for like my non-self-tan self, but I really do need to be tanning in order to wear this, but I'm okay with that because I'm doing a pretty good job keeping up with that. And again, we have the vacation, I'll be in the sun and all of that. So I will say that for the shade match, maybe go down. I didn't notice it oxidizing on me or anything like that. Once I put it on, I felt like the shade stayed the same. But I was making my list for my makeup monthly. I have a favorite category, a fail category, and also a find category. And I wanted to put the Dior foundation in the makeup monthly. So I was thinking about what category to put it in. And I ended up at fine because I do still really like it. I'm going to reach for it. I'm going to wear it. But I just think I would be lying if I said it was like a tippy top favorite of mine. I think it's probably because of the wear time. I don't think that it's the longest wearing foundation. And I do like pretty long wear foundations. I feel like it's not that it, you know, starts to slip off my face after just a few hours, but I think that's the biggest part that's kind of holding me up of saying that it's not an absolute favorite of mine. And also I just feel like you have to kind of build it up to that medium coverage or use a little bit more product than I'm used to get that medium. So those are kind of like the two drawbacks to me. The packaging I also don't totally love, but like it's okay. Like it's fine. I didn't really deduct points for that. But I think the wear time is the biggest factor to me in saying that this is a fine versus a favorite. But again, I still really like it. $40 is, you know, it's $40. There's foundations that are in the $50 range. So at $40, you get a little bit more product. I still think that it's really nice. I want to say that. It's just not total fave, you know? Okay. And then the final product that I had in that video, Ooh, I'm almost a little bit nervous to review this one. This is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the Amrezy Highlighter. Okay, I did also have a subscriber send me the highlighter because I've talked about not really being super interested in purchasing this highlight, and this highlight is so loved. It's sold out when they first came out with it. They brought it back. Everyone was so excited. I think it's sold out again, and I just, for whatever reason, I wasn't getting into the hype. I don't know what it is. I don't mind the Anastasia highlights. Like I've had her glow kits, but I didn't really get into them. And even though people are saying like, oh, you know, this is a different formula, I still was just like, I have other highlights in my collection that I love. I have so many highlights. I just don't feel like I need this one. It's $28 if I didn't say. So I ended up having a subscriber send it over to me, which was so nice. And I was like, cool, like I'm excited to be able to try this. And hopefully I love it and I can tell everyone. I was wrong. I should have gone out and purchased it right away. I do have it on my cheeks today. I've been trying it out for the past couple weeks. And honestly, I like it, but I don't love it. And I think I'm like the only person who doesn't just absolutely adore this highlight. But again, it's really nice. It's a really nice, you know, beautiful highlight. I will say that I have to build it up a couple of times, and I'm someone who prefers more of like a super blinding highlight. So I definitely have to build it up quite a bit. So there is the swatch of the highlight. It's a little bit on like the gold side, but it's not too dark. Whether I'm self-tanned or not self-tanned, I didn't notice it being like too dark on me by any means. But I also feel like it shows texture on my skin, and I'm just not a big fan of that, especially on this side of my face. I just feel like you can see so much texture over here. And I thought that when I applied it for the first time, and I was like, oh boy. And then every time I've applied it, I'm like, oh, I just don't know if I love it. Again, I think that it's really nice. If I build it up, I think that it looks really pretty and everything. But I just do have my other highlights that I love so much more. The Natasha Denona Super Glow and Ofra Pillow Talk and Dose of Colors, I Love Sarah E. Bathe. I reach for those highlights over and over. And every time I was reaching for this highlight, it was because I knew I wanted to try it to be able to review it. It's just not going to be a favorite. Am I still, you know, am I still going to wear it? Yes. And do I still think that it's pretty? And I think I can understand why so many people love it. I almost feel like it's maybe like a very versatile highlight because, again, like I said, it's not too much, but you can build it up. So maybe you want a more subtle highlight, and then maybe you want to build it up, and that's great. And like I said, the coloring I do think looks flattering whether I'm, you know, a little bit more pale versus whether I'm a little bit more self-tanned. I found that it looks flattering on me both ways, so I feel like it's good for a lot of skin tones. So I think I see why so many people really love this highlight. It's just for me and for my personal makeup preferences, it's not an absolute fave. Again, if I was putting this in the Makeup Monthly, which maybe I will, I haven't made my full list yet, but if I were to do that, I would put it into the fine category. How many people are mad at me right now? Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at me. I just wanted to give my honest thoughts, and that's all I can do in my reviews. But again, I was super excited to be able to try it out and just kind of see, is it worth the hype for me and for what I like in my makeup and all of that. But those are my thoughts on the Anastasia Amrezy Highlight. You'll have to let me know what you think. But other than that, that is going to wrap it up for today's hits and misses video. I hope that you enjoy seeing these follow-ups and my full thoughts on everything after I've been trying them out for quite some time. But other than that, if you guys did enjoy this one, I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up. I hope that you'll also consider subscribing before you go, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.